Hey, what's up guys? MTG Tournament Grinder here, and welcome to this week's episode of Modern. This time around I thought I would try something a little bit different. I believe this was recorded on a Friday where I lost the first two rounds. So instead of continuing to record myself lose, I instead recorded my two friends who were both undefeated. So this is the final round, round 4, and each of these two players are 3-0 going into this final round. Versus Boros Burn. So Blue Moon ideally will make it to the long game by drawing things out, countering, remand, that kind of stuff. On the other hand, Boros Burn wants to win as early as turn 3, just with very aggressive face damage and attacks. So I think these conflicting game plans should make for a rather interesting match. So far though, Blue Moon playing a Tapland Impasse and Boros Burn just suspending a Rift Bolt. I mean, suspending a Rift Bolt is respectable, that's a totally fine turn 1, but it's far from their most aggressive line, which I think involves playing a turn 1 Monastery Swift Spear, so you can start getting those prowess triggers as early as possible. Oof though, Eidolon of the Great Revel, and into a Remand. That would have been good if it resolved. Blue Moon is certainly going to be playing lots of spells, so if you can stick a Eidolon on turn 2 or turn 3, I think it'll potentially get in for quite a bit of damage. So here we are trying again, take 2. Looks like the Blue Moon player has something. I guess it's a spell he has planned for Instep. We're about to find out. Yep, that is Instep cast Lightning Bolt. I mean, he still takes 2 damage from the Eidolon trigger, so in a weird way, it's almost as though the Eidolon actually had haste, got in for 2, and made him discard a Lightning Bolt. If you want to look at it that way. That's a very optimistic view, but that's essentially what happened. Lava Spike went uncountered. Is it Charm? Yeah, the Blue Moon player, oh gross, he drew 2 lands and discarded the same 2 lands. I know it's important to hit your land drops as a control player, but any deck is susceptible to getting flooded out, and I think that may be what's happening, at least to a small degree, with the Blue Moon player. And honestly, look at Burn too, 4 lands. I think Burn's ideal draw involves only 2 lands, maybe 3. Still though, not going too bad. And there's the Monastery Swift Spear. That's worth countering. Okay, there's the Cryptic. I thought I saw a Cryptic command in his hand at one point, and he's had Cryptic mana held up for a turn or 2. Three mana. Oh, Blood Moon. Gross. Yeah, now's the time. While you still have white mana, cast out Lightning Helix. I don't think Boros Burn plays any basic planes. The only white sources are from non-basic lands, so hopefully he doesn't draw any more Lightning Helixes. Those are officially dead cards. Nope, no more Helixes, just more Eidolons. Pretty sweet, honestly, when your opponent's at 6. Yeah, how many lands is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7? This must be turn 7. The Blue Moon player has not missed a land drop yet. Interesting. You gotta do what you gotta do, I suppose. It's not entirely the best use of a Cryptic command, but when push comes to shove and you're at 6 and there's an Eidolon, you gotta make some bold choices. And how many times has he played that Eidolon, by the way? There's the one in the battlefield and the one in the graveyard, but I think he's cast like 5 cards called Eidolon of the Great Revel. It's just the same one like 3 times, 4 times. And again, Anger of the Gods is not the most efficient way to deal with an Eidolon. But again, when your life total is as low as it is, you kind of have to do what you got to do to get rid of that Eidolon. But honestly, once you're at 1 life and the burn player still has 3 cards in hand, it's pretty much game over. See what's on the top of the library, Scalding Tarn, and that is not enough. Well, that was a pretty good game 1. I don't think the game went quite as long as the Blue Moon player would have hoped, and it seemed like they were suffering from a little bit of mana flooding, but I'm sure both players have something interesting planned for their sideboard. So let's go ahead and look at some sideboarding action, and I'll see you guys in a few minutes for game 2. Alrighty, as far as the sideboarding goes, I actually did not get a good look at what these players sideboarded, unfortunately. I usually get a good peek at the end of the video when the players de-sideboard their decks and both talk about it, but that little conversation, that little powwow, did not occur during this match, so I'm not entirely sure what they brought in, but I did see a few cards. As far as the burn player is concerned, it looked like they brought in at least 2 copies of Rest in Peace. I think Rest in Peace is good against Snapcaster, but not much else. Although, it hitting 4 copies of Snapcaster makes it worth bringing in, I think. Especially against a deck like Blue Moon, where Snapcaster targeting Lightning Bolt is a big way of how they're going to kill you. I also used to run Rest in Peace in the sideboard of Traditional Affinity, and I would bring it in against Snapcaster decks. I think it's certainly good enough to warrant bringing in. And besides Rest in Peace, the burn player also brought in 2 copies of Exquisite Firecraft. That is a 3-mana sorcery that says it deals 4 damage to target creature or player, but Spell Mastery, if there are 2 or more instants and or sorceries in your graveyard, it cannot be countered by spells or abilities. So burn is almost certainly going to have at least 2 instants and sorceries in the graveyard by like turn 2 in some cases. Therefore, the cannot be countered clause, the Spell Mastery half of Exquisite Firecraft, is going to be relevant quickly. A few of the reasons to bring this card in against control is 4 damage on 1 spell is a really good rate. Even if it does cost 3 mana, which is a little less efficient, you're almost certainly going to have the Spell Mastery, in which case it cannot be countered, and that's definitely worth 3 mana if you're playing against a deck with Cryptic Commands and Remand, all kinds of counter spells. And those are the only 2 cards that I could see for certain the burn player brought in. So if there are any burn players watching this video, feel free to comment below what you would sideboard in, if there's any burn sideboard cards that you think would be good to bring in here. I've learned a lot from the viewers, and I appreciate y'all's input, so if you let me know in the comments below, I definitely appreciate it. And as for the Blue Moon player, I saw even less of their sideboard plan. In fact, all I know for certain is that they brought in Through the Breach Emrakul out of the side. So Emrakul's ridiculously high CMC means you're never going to cast him naturally, and that's what Through the Breach is for. You get to put a creature from your hand onto the battlefield, give it haste, sacrifice it at the next end step. For most creatures in the game of Magic, that would not win you the game. But Emrakul is one of the few creatures that is likely just going to win the game on the spot. I think this is a good combo to bring in, because it can win by turn 4, all in one go, seemingly out of nowhere. And I think that rate of winning is like the perfect speed to contend with a deck like Burn. Because Burn can win pretty quick, as we saw in Game 1. I think Game 1 made it to turn 8 or so, but Burn could easily win on turn 3, if left unimpeded. So again, if there's any Blue Moon players watching, besides the Emrakul Through the Breach package, are there any other sideboard cards that you think would be decent in this matchup? Again, please let me know in the comments below. But for now, I think that about wraps it up for the sideboarding. So let's go ahead and jump back into Game 2 and see if there's going to be a Game 3 or not. And we are back with Game 2. As we saw in Game 1, it would appear that Eidolon of the Great Revel is a pretty good card against Blue Moon. Even if all it does is keep the Blue Moon player busy trying to bounce it and destroy it. Meanwhile, the Burn player was sprinkling in Lightning Bolts, Lava Spikes, and Skull Cracks throughout. And before you know it, boom, 20 damage. And this game has the turn 1 Monastery Swift Spear. So I started to bring this up in Game 1, but I believe that Burn's most aggressive starts begin with a turn 1 Swift Spear, followed up by a turn 2 Swift Spear, and then either some sort of Lightning Bolt to the face, Lightning Bolt or Lava Spike, to get that double prowess trigger. So we'll see if that is going to come to pass. Nope. No second Swift Spear. But just this one is already getting in for quite a bit of damage. Second main phase Grim Lavamancer. And he's got a fetch land, So we cracked the fetch, put a card in the graveyard. Now he just needs one more card in the graveyard for Grim Lavamancer. And that card will be Riftbolt at his next upkeep. So he's set up pretty good here. Upkeep, Riftbolt face, Prowess trigger, swing for 2, activate Grim Lavamancer if need be. So that's 7 damage next turn, predictably, on board. That's not including any spells he may or may not cast. It looks like the Blue Moon player's doing the same math that I just did. Counting out impending damage and trying to decide what the best play is. Ooh, nice. Braiding the Swift Spear helps a lot. No more Prowess triggers. Although that is one more card in the graveyard for Grim Lavamancer. Oh my gosh, 2 more Rift Bolts. And he's at 12, so the Rift Bolts are for sure 6 damage. I mean, they could be countered, but let's say they're 6 damage. Grim Lavamancer, call it 8. With 3 cards in hand. The 3 cards are almost certainly a total of 4 damage. It looks like I can see one of those promo Lightning Helixes in hand. Is it Charm once again? This time a different mode. Deal 2 damage, blowing up that Grim Lavamancer. Darn, and he mana leaked one of the Rift Bolts. So how much damage did I count out? Was that 7? And 7 was turned into 3. Nice hand though. Lightning Bolt, Lightning Helix, Eidolon of the Great Revel, and an Exquisite Firecraft. Excuse me, I got distracted. So we'll see how good Eidolon is in this game. He was MVP in game 1. So it looks like he drew another Lightning Bolt? I couldn't quite see. His hand is stacked. I think that this is one of those weird instances in which the burn player would like to draw a 3rd land. So honestly, at this point, activate Lighthouse, but in response, nice. Well, he's tapped out. Get that Lightning Helix in there. Oof. Take 2 from the Eidolon. Pretty brutal. Oh, is that what I think it is? Oh my gosh. So there's Through the Breach Emrakul. Blows up his entire board. So he doesn't have lethal on board anymore. He has to have it in hand. But with a draw step and 3 cards, yeah, there it is. It was almost certain. Well, that's rough. He even had the Emrakul Through the Breach combo, but just couldn't quite get there. But hey, that's Magic for you. But I really appreciate you guys for watching. And as usual, if you enjoy content like this, you can let me know in the comments below or by hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to head over to Twitch and check me out on there. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday and some Fridays for my LGS. Typically it's Modern, but I have streamed Standard and a few other formats on occasion. There's also Twitter @GrinderMTG if you would like to stay up to date on all the content. And if you'd really enjoy the content that I make and you'd like to support it, you can head on over to Patreon and contribute monthly for a few cool perks. So once again, I appreciate you guys for listening, and until next time, I'll see you guys next week.